In this video, we're going to be discussing the times during the Taiji sword form where you actually use both hands on the sword. So why is it, after talking about the importance of the sword fingers hand posture, did the creators of this form and this style of fighting choose to interject points in the form where you stop using that hand posture and you go to a two-hand grip? Well, that's what we're talking about in this video, so stick around to find out why. The first thing that we're going to do is look at a posture or a movement in the traditional Yang-style sword form. The name of this movement is commonly translated as compass. The movement that we're focusing on actually goes from a movement where you're holding the sword with both hands. So this is a really good example of how this hand posture, this use of both hands, comes up in the form. So you start here, you come across, pull in, and then you step up and you stab out at chest level with both hands on the sword. So again, if we think about the practical use of the Tai Chi sword back when it was a main means of self-defense, then it makes sense that if your left hand is empty and you don't actually have anything in it and you need to support what the sword hand is doing, that you'll actually grab that hand or support it in a way with the empty hand that is going to offer more support, more strength, more control than two fingers would. But if you have something in that other hand, then holding it with that sword fingers hand posture allows you to maintain control of that extra thing that you have while supporting what you're doing with the other hand. So now let's think about the sword form itself a little bit. Why is it that if you're using the sword finger hand posture correctly, and that is as a placeholder to teach you how to move with something in your left hand, why would the creators of the form interject movements in the form where you abandon that hand posture and you go to a two-hand grip? And the reason is really this. The reason that hand posture exists, as we've discussed before, is to teach you how to move with something in the left hand. So if I learn to do this as I'm going through the form, I've just learned both how to do this cut and how to deflect something with that top hand if I have something in that hand. So the combination of these things teaches me how to use something in my left hand while I'm learning the basic sword techniques. But there's nothing in my left hand, so it's not distracting me from just focusing on the sword work. If I need to do something where I'm using both hands because my left hand is empty, it's very easy to switch from moving with the sword fingers hand posture or moving in a way that allows for two things, one thing in each hand, to focusing on just the sword and using both hands on the sword. So it's very easy to make that transition, going from the sword fingers hand posture to a two-hand grip. However, if you learned just to use the sword, you learn to use the two-hand grip when necessary for a little extra power or stability or control when you're doing certain techniques, and then you didn't really focus on what the left hand was doing while you were learning other techniques, then you would have to kind of start from scratch to learn how to use the left hand with something in it. So part of the brilliance of the creators of this art is that they understood it's easier to build the muscle memory first. How do you move with two things, one thing in both hands? And then if you need to, you have the muscle memory there. And if you don't, it's very easy to adjust to another way of moving. So it's really quite simple when you think about the purpose of the forms. The forms are just to teach you the basics. They're to really drill the techniques that you've learned to apply in partner practice and to refine that when you don't have a partner to practice with. So based on that use of a form, it makes a lot of sense to interject different things in the form that will remind a practitioner as they're going through the form of different uses of the sword, different uses of the empty hand, and different ways that you can move to give you the best advantage and the best chance of surviving any sword fight you happen to be in. So as a quick recap, there are times in the form when you stop using the sword fingers hand posture and you switch to a two-hand grip. That is to emphasize the fact that if you don't have something in your left hand or your empty hand, it is actually an empty hand, do the thing that makes sense with that hand. Support what you're doing as far as the technique goes, either by gripping the sword with both hands, doing a two-hand grip, supporting the wrist with an open hand, not just two fingers. Do what makes sense with this hand to give you the best advantage with the techniques that you're doing. The sword fingers hand posture is the primary focus of the forms because it allows you to get muscle memory and learn how to move with something in both hands without the distraction of something being in your left hand. So you can focus on refining your technique with the sword, but you also build the muscle memory of a more defensive movement with the left hand. And you break from that hand posture occasionally to remind you that you don't have to hold that hand posture if it's not actually being useful to you. So the creators of this form were telling us, use the sword fingers hand posture when it makes sense, when you're holding something in that hand. If you're not, abandon it You don't need to hold that just because, and switch to using this hand in the way that is most useful to you. If that is holding the sword with both hands for supporting a technique, then that's what you should be doing with it. And it's not necessary to try to support those things with just 2 fingers. So that's it. That's all there is to the reason that sometimes you abandon the sword fingers hand posture as you're doing the Tai Chi sword forms. It's really not that complicated, but sometimes it's helpful to actually have that explained. I hope you found this video informative. I hope it added some clarity to your Taiji sword training. If you found it useful, if you found the information valuable to you in your training, please hit the like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and also consider becoming a supporting member of this channel so that you can help ensure that videos like this can be available in the future. Stay safe and healthy out there. Thank you so much for watching.